Once upon a time, in a peaceful village called Ikemba, there lived a young man named Chuka. The people of Ikemba lived simple and happy lives, working as farmers, fishermen, and craftsmen. Chuka was one of the most respected men in the village because he was kind, hard-working, and generous. His farm always grew the best yams and maize, and whenever someone needed help, Chuka was always there. Even though Chuka had everything he needed, something was missing. He longed for a wife to share his life with. While many of his friends were married and starting families, Chuka remained single. It wasn't that he didn't want to get married. He believed that love would come to him when the time was right, and so he waited patiently. One bright morning, while Chuka was at the village market, something unusual happened. A woman appeared, someone no one had seen before. She was selling handmade baskets, but it wasn't just her baskets that caught everyone's attention. The woman was stunningly beautiful. Her skin was smooth and dark like polished wood, and her long black hair flowed down her back. But what stood out the most were her eyes. They sparkled with a mysterious light that made her seem like she was hiding a secret. Her name was Omalicha. From the moment Omalicha arrived in Ikemba, the villagers couldn't stop talking about her. They wondered where she had come from and why she never spoke about her past. She was polite and kind, but she kept her personal life private. Despite the curiosity around her, Omalicha remained a mystery, which only made the villagers more fascinated. Chuka, too, was intrigued by Omalicha. Every day he found himself walking past her stall, buying baskets he didn't need just to talk to her. At first, their conversations were short and simple. Omalicha would smile politely and thank him for his purchase, but over time they began to talk more. They shared small conversations about the weather, the village, and the market. The more Chuka talked to Omalicha, the more he realized she was the woman he had been waiting for. Her calm nature, her beauty, and her quiet strength made her stand out from everyone else. Soon Chuka found himself thinking about her all the time, and he knew he couldn't keep his feelings hidden any longer. One evening, as the sun was setting and the market was closing, Chuka gathered his courage and approached Omalicha. His heart was beating fast, but he spoke from the heart. "Omalicha," he said softly, "I feel something special when I'm with you. I know we haven't known each other for long, but I'd like to spend more time with you and see where this leads." Omalicha looked up at him, her deep eyes reflecting the fading light. She smiled warmly. "I feel the same way, Chuka," she replied. Her voice was soft, but her words filled Chuka with hope. From that moment on, their courtship began. Every day, Chuka and Omalicha would spend time together. They would walk through the village, sit by the river, or talk under the shade of a large tree near the market. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and the villagers noticed. Some were happy for Chuka, while others were still curious about the mystery surrounding Omalicha's past. But Chuka didn't care about the rumors. He was in love, and he knew that Omalicha was the woman he had been waiting for, the companion to make his days worthwhile. The days passed quickly, and Chuka and Omalicha's love continued to blossom. Soon, Chuka knew there was no reason to wait any longer. He wanted to marry Omalicha and make her his wife. One evening, after a quiet walk by the river, Chuka stopped, took a deep breath, and looked into Omalicha's eyes. "Omalicha," he said, his voice calm and loving, "I've never met anyone like you. You've brought peace and joy into my life, and I can't imagine my future without you. Will you marry me?" Omalicha smiled, her eyes softening as she reached for his hand. "Yes, Chuka," she whispered, "I will marry you." Chuka's heart swelled with happiness. The next day, he announced his intention to marry Omalicha, and word spread quickly throughout the village of Ikemba. The villagers were excited for the upcoming wedding. Omalicha had won over many hearts with her beauty and grace, and even though some still wondered about her mysterious past, no one could deny that she and Chuka made a perfect couple. The elders of the village gathered to prepare for the wedding ceremony. In Ikemba, marriage was considered a sacred bond, blessed by the ancestors and the spirits of the land. The wedding would be a grand celebration, with feasting, music, and dancing that would last for days. When the day of the wedding arrived, the village was alive with excitement. Colorful decorations filled the air, and people from neighboring villages came to witness the union of Chuka and Omalicha. The elders led the ceremony with prayers and blessings, asking the spirits to grant the couple happiness, fertility, and long life together. Chuka stood proudly in the village square, dressed in fine traditional attire, his heart racing with anticipation. He couldn't wait to see Omalicha, his bride, as she walked toward him, and when she finally appeared, Chuka's breath caught in his throat. Omalicha looked stunning. She wore a beautiful gown made of woven fabrics in rich colors of red, gold, and green. Her hair was decorated with beads, and she moved with such grace that it was as if she was floating toward him. As Omalicha joined him, standing by his side, Chuka felt an overwhelming sense of joy and completeness. The elders offered their final blessings, and the village cheered as the couple exchanged vows. With the blessings of the elders, the ancestors, and the spirits of the land, Chuka and Omalicha were declared husband and wife. The rest of the day was filled with celebration. The villagers sang traditional songs, danced to the rhythm of the drums, and feasted on all kinds of delicious foods. Laughter and joy echoed through the village as people celebrated the love between Chuka and Omalicha. They danced until their feet were sore and sang until their voices were hoarse. As night fell, the stars sparkled above, casting a gentle glow over the village. The young couple slipped away from the festivities, retreating to their home on the edge of the village, where they would begin their life together. Chuka's house was modest, but it was warm and welcoming, with a small garden and a view of the forest beyond the village. Omalicha had moved in after the wedding, and Chuka was excited to finally share his home with the woman he loved. However, that night, something unexpected happened. As Chuka eagerly awaited his first intimate moment with Omalicha as husband and wife, she softly told him that she was on her period and wasn't feeling well. Chuka, being understanding, didn't press her further. He told himself that there would be plenty of time for intimacy, and that Omalicha's health was more important. But days turned into weeks, and the excuses kept coming. Omalicha was a wonderful wife. She cooked, cleaned, and cared for Chuka with so much love that anyone would envy their marriage. She was affectionate in other ways, holding his hand, resting her head on his shoulder, and smiling at him with genuine warmth. It was clear to Chuka that she cared for him deeply. But whenever he approached her for intimacy, Omalicha would gently push him away, always with a different reason. "I'm too tired tonight," she would say one evening. "Maybe tomorrow," she'd promise the next night, her voice full of sweetness. Chuka tried to be patient. He loved Omalicha and didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable, but as time passed, he couldn't help but feel confused and frustrated. It wasn't just the lack of intimacy that bothered him. It was the fact that Omalicha seemed to be avoiding something. He could sense it in the way she looked at him sometimes, as though she was holding back a secret. At first, Chuka thought maybe she needed time to adjust to their new life together. After all, marriage was a big change, and maybe Omalicha wasn't ready for intimacy just yet. But the excuses continued, and Chuka began to wonder if there was something else going on. Why would a woman who clearly loved and cared for him avoid being close to him in that way? And then there were the nights when Omalicha would disappear. It started happening shortly after they were married. Some nights, Chuka would wake up in the middle of the night and find Omalicha missing from their bed. At first he thought maybe she had gone to fetch water or take a walk to clear her mind, but as it happened more often, Chuka grew concerned. He would ask her where she had been, but Omalicha would smile and say, "I just needed some fresh air, don't worry my love." But Chuka couldn't help worrying. He tried to push the thoughts away, convincing himself that he was overreacting. After all, Omalicha was a loving wife in every other way. She took care of him, they shared laughter and conversations, and their life together seemed perfect, except for this growing distance between them in the intimacy they shared. The villagers, too, began to notice strange things. There were whispers about odd occurrences near the forest. Animals were being found dead, with no signs of injury, as though they had simply collapsed. Some villagers claimed to have heard strange noises coming from the woods at night, low hisses and rustling sounds that didn't belong to any animal they recognized. The elders dismissed the rumors, saying it was just the work of wild creatures. Days turned into weeks, and Chuka's concerns about Omalicha continued to grow. She was everything he had wanted in a wife, loving, kind, and caring. But there was one thing that haunted him: her avoidance of intimacy. Each night she offered excuses, and though they lived together as husband and wife, their relationship was missing the closeness he had expected. Omalicha always gave a sweet smile, saying, "Not tonight, Chuka. I'm too tired." Or "Tomorrow, I promise." Then there were her late-night disappearances. Quiet, unnoticed at first, but they soon became too frequent to ignore. One afternoon, while Chuka was working in his fields, he received an unexpected visit from Mama Neka, an elderly woman known in the village for her wisdom and visions. Some said she was a seer, able to communicate with spirits and foresee things that others couldn't. Chuka, however, wasn't one to believe in the supernatural. To him, seeing was believing, and he trusted only what his eyes could confirm. When Mama Neka approached him that day, her expression was serious, and Chuka could feel a strange tension in the air. "Mama Neka, it's an honor to see you," Chuka said respectfully, standing to greet her. Mama Neka gave him a small nod but didn't smile. Her deep, dark eyes seemed to search his face, as if reading thoughts that Chuka hadn't even spoken yet. Though her body was bent with age, her presence was powerful. "I have come to speak with you, Chuka," Mama Neka began, her voice low but steady. "There is something you must know about your wife, Omalicha." Chuka's heart skipped a beat. He had heard the villagers speak of Mama Neka's visions, but he had always brushed them aside as stories for those who believed in such things. He didn't. And yet there was something in Mama Neka's tone that made him listen. "What do you mean, Mama Neka?" Chuka asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Omalicha is a good woman. She takes care of me, she loves me. What could be wrong?" Mama Neka sighed deeply, her hand gripping her walking stick. "There are forces in this world, Chuka, that you may not believe in, but they are real. I have seen Omalicha, late at night wandering near the forest. She goes where no human woman should go." Chuka's chest tightened. He had noticed Omalicha slipping out of bed at night, disappearing into the darkness, but he had convinced himself it was nothing. Now, hearing it from Mama Neka, his worries began to feel more real. "I don't believe in such things," Chuka said, though doubt was creeping into his voice. "Omalicha has never hurt me. She is kind and loving. How can you say there is something wrong with her?" Mama Neka's gaze softened, but her tone remained firm. "She is not what she seems, Chuka. Omalicha is tied to something old, something from the forest. There is a reason she avoids you, a reason she cannot give you what every wife gives her husband. She is hiding something dangerous." Chuka's mind raced. He didn't want to believe it. He had always dismissed the supernatural as foolishness, but he couldn't deny the distance growing between him and Omalicha. The constant excuses, the late-night walks, and now, this warning from Mama Neka. It was all starting to make sense, though he didn't want it to. "What should I do, Mama Neka?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Watch her closely," Mama Neka said quietly. "You need to see for yourself. She is hiding the truth, and when you see it, you will have to decide what to do." Chuka nodded slowly, though his heart was heavy. "Thank you, Mama Neka," he said, bowing his head in respect, though his thoughts were swirling with confusion. Mama Neka placed a hand on his shoulder. "Be strong, Chuka. You will find the truth, but be prepared. What you discover may change everything." With that, Mama Neka turned and walked away, leaving Chuka alone in the field. His mind was in turmoil, battling between the love he felt for Omalicha and the growing sense of dread. That night, Chuka lay in bed, unable to sleep. Mama Neka's words echoed in his mind, filling him with doubt and fear. Omalicha was his wife, the woman he loved. He had never believed in supernatural powers or ancient curses, but something about Omalicha's behavior had always felt off. Could Mama Neka be right? Was Omalicha hiding something from him? As the night deepened, Chuka made a decision. The next time Omalicha left the house in the middle of the night, he would follow her. He needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The opportunity came sooner than he expected. Just a few nights later, as they lay in bed, Chuka pretended to be asleep. His heart raced as he waited. Sure enough, Omalicha stirred quietly, slipping out of bed as she had done many times before. She moved silently, careful not to wake him, and left the house. Chuka waited a moment, then rose and followed her. His footsteps were light as he trailed her through the village, keeping a safe distance so she wouldn't notice him. His pulse quickened as he saw her head toward the forest, a place of mystery and fear where ancient powers were said to dwell. Omalicha moved with purpose, as though she knew exactly where she was going. Chuka followed her deeper into the woods, the trees growing thicker, the shadows darker. The forest was alive with the sounds of insects and the rustling of leaves, but it felt eerie, as if something unseen was watching him. After what felt like an eternity, Omalicha reached a clearing in the heart of the forest. Chuka hid behind a tree, his breath quickening as he watched her step into the moonlight. The clearing was bathed in silver light, and for a moment, Omalicha stood still, her back to him. And then, something shocking happened. Chuka watched in disbelief as Omalicha's body began to change. Her skin shimmered, her limbs elongating and shifting. Her beautiful human form twisted, bending in ways that defied explanation. Before his very eyes, she transformed into a massive black snake, her scales glistening under the moonlight. The creature's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and she slithered through the clearing with a grace that sent shivers down Chuka's spine. "A snake," Chuka whispered, his mind struggling to comprehend what he had just seen. His wife, the woman he had loved and trusted, was not human. She was something else, something ancient and powerful, something from the very heart of the forest, fear and disbelief surging through him. Trembling, Chuka stumbled backward, unable to tear his eyes away from the horrifying sight. His mind raced with questions. Why had Omalicha hidden this from him? Was she dangerous? Or had she kept this secret to protect him? In a state of shock, Chuka turned and fled, his footsteps pounding against the earth as he ran back through the forest. He didn't stop until he reached the safety of the village, but even then, he couldn't escape the image burned into his mind. A giant snake, that was what she transformed into. The truth was finally clear, but it was a truth Chuka had never been prepared to face. Chuka didn't sleep that night. The image of Omalicha, shifting and twisting into a massive black snake, haunted him. His mind raced with confusion, fear, and disbelief. How could the woman he loved, the woman who cared for him, be something other than human? The weight of the truth sat heavy in his chest. As dawn broke and the light crept into the room, Omalicha returned quietly from her late-night walk. She slipped into bed beside him, her movements soft and careful, as though nothing had changed. But for Chuka, everything had changed. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, his heart pounding. He had to know why she had hidden this from him. How long had she been keeping this secret? And most importantly, why? Later that day, Chuka watched Omalicha go about her usual routine, acting as though everything was normal. She hummed softly while preparing food, her movements graceful and peaceful. It was hard to reconcile this image of her with the creature he had seen in the forest the night before. The love he felt for her clashed violently with the fear that now gnawed at him. Chuka tried to bring up the topic gently, asking her simple questions about her walks at night. But Omalicha's answers were vague. She avoided eye contact, clearly not wanting to say too much. She offered no explanation, no confession. It was as though she was trying to protect him from something, keeping him in the dark for his own safety. But Chuka couldn't live in the dark anymore. He needed answers. That evening, as they sat together, Chuka finally confronted her. "I followed you last night," he said quietly. Omalicha froze. She didn't look at him, but the tension in her body told him everything. She knew what he had seen. Chuka continued, his voice heavy. "I know what you are. I saw you." There was a long silence. Omalicha sat still, not daring to meet his eyes. She didn't deny it. She didn't try to explain. She simply sat there, and Chuka could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on them both. I didn't want you to know, Omalicha finally whispered, her voice low, almost breaking. She still didn't look at him. Chuka stared at her, his mind swirling with questions. Why? He asked, his voice softer now, filled with confusion rather than anger. Why didn't you tell me? Omalicha sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping under the weight of what she had kept hidden. Because I was afraid, she admitted, her voice barely audible. Afraid that knowing would hurt you, or worse, that it would drive you away. Chuka said nothing for a long time. He wanted to ask more, but he could see the fear in her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly. She was holding back, not out of malice or deceit, but out of fear. She didn't want to reveal more than she thought he could handle, and Chuka realized, with a pang in his chest, that she had been protecting him all along. Omalicha spoke again, her voice trembling. I'm not like you, Chuka. I'm tied to the forest, to something ancient, something I can't control. If I don't answer its call, I lose myself. That's why I leave at night. It's not something I wanted, but it's who I am. Chuka sat there, silent, trying to process the words. He felt like he was trapped between two worlds, the one he knew and understood, and the one that Omalicha was tied to, a world he couldn't fully grasp. I never wanted to hurt you, Omalicha continued, her voice breaking slightly. But this is my truth. Chuka nodded slowly, understanding that this truth was something beyond either of them. Omalicha hadn't lied to him out of cruelty. She had kept her secret because she feared it would destroy the life they had built together. I just need time, Chuka finally said, his voice strained. Omalicha nodded, wiping away the tears that had begun to fall. I understand. The silence that followed felt heavy, but the truth had been revealed. Chuka knew now what Omalicha truly was, a being tied to the ancient powers of the forest, something he could never fully comprehend. But in her silence, in her restraint, he saw that her love for him had always been real. She hadn't wanted to hurt him. She had only wanted to protect him from a truth she knew might be too much to bear. As night fell, and Omalicha retreated to her side of the bed, Chuka lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The love he felt for her was still there, but it was now entangled with fear and uncertainty. Could he live with this knowledge? Could he accept that his wife was something beyond human, bound to powers he didn't understand? In the days following Omalicha's revelation, the tension between her and Chuka deepened. He had learned much about the ancient powers binding her to the forest, but there were still unanswered questions. Chuka could sense that Omalicha was holding back, not just to protect him, but also to protect herself from the truth she feared to confront. One evening, as the sky darkened and the cool wind swept through the village, Mama Neka arrived again. Chuka had been expecting her. There was more to Omalicha's secret, and he needed to know everything. Without wasting time, Mama Neka spoke gravely. Omalicha is bound by an ancient curse, she said. Her reluctance to be intimate with you goes beyond simple fear. Each time you come together as one, she will take part of your essence. It is not something she can control, it is the curse itself. The more intimate you are, the more of yourself you give to her, piece by piece. Chuka's heart sank. He had suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed sent a chill down his spine. Mama Neka continued, her voice heavy with sorrow. That is why she has pushed you away. She fears that in loving you fully she will consume you. You will lose your strength, your spirit, and eventually, you will lose yourself. Chuka sat in silence, absorbing the weight of this knowledge. Omalicha had been protecting him from the curse, but now it made sense. Why she avoided closeness, why she seemed distant even though her love for him was real. There is another matter, Mama Neka added, her voice low. The curse does not only affect your relationship. Omalicha's bond with the forest is growing stronger. If she does not return to the forest soon, she will lose control of her transformations. The power inside her is ancient, wild, and it will eventually overpower her. She could become trapped in her serpent form, unable to return to the human world. And when that happens, she may not be able to control who she harms. Chuka's chest tightened with fear. He had seen Omalicha in her serpent form, but he had never imagined she could lose herself completely to it. The thought of her being trapped in that form, with no way back, terrified him. Worse still, if the curse took full hold of her, she might become a danger, not just to herself, but to him and anyone close to her. Mama Neka's words were blunt, but they carried hope. There is a way to overcome this, Chuka. For you both to share intimacy without danger, you must become one in every sense. Your souls, your very beings must merge. But this requires a sacrifice. Both of you must give up part of yourselves. Your individuality will blend into one essence. It is a powerful bond, but one that can only be sustained if your love is strong enough to withstand it. Chuka felt the weight of the choice before him. The path ahead was not just about love. It was about sacrifice. He would lose part of himself to be with Omalicha, and she would do the same. They would no longer be two separate people, but one united soul. He stared at the darkening sky, trying to imagine what such a life would look like. Could he give up part of himself for the woman he loved? And could Omalicha risk returning to the forest to keep control of her true nature? The answers were not easy, but Chuka knew that he couldn't keep living in fear. That night, as Omalicha prepared for bed, Chuka watched her, the weight of Mama Neka's words heavy on his mind. The truth of the curse, the loss of control, the merging of souls, was terrifying. But he knew that avoiding it would only make things worse. He understood now why Omalicha had pushed him away, why she had always kept a distance. She feared taking too much from him, feared losing control of herself, and feared what the curse could do to them both. But he also knew that their love had brought them this far. They had faced so much together, and now they were standing on the edge of a choice that could either save or destroy them. Omalicha, sensing his thoughts, looked at him with a quiet sadness. She knew what he was thinking, and in her eyes he saw the same fear and uncertainty. She wasn't sure if their love was strong enough to withstand the sacrifice. But Chuka wasn't ready to give up. He didn't say much that night. Words didn't feel necessary anymore. Instead, he took her hand, holding it gently, knowing that whatever came next, they would have to face it together. Weeks after Chuka and Omalicha made the ultimate sacrifice and became fully intimate, Omalicha's worst fears seemed to vanish. For the first time, she allowed herself to love Chuka without restraint. They were bound in every sense, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. To Chuka, it felt like their love had finally overcome the ancient curse. Omalicha became pregnant not long after, and joy filled their home as they eagerly awaited the arrival of their child. Months later, Omalicha gave birth to a beautiful daughter. She was perfect in every way, with bright eyes and a soft, melodic laugh that made Chuka's heart swell with happiness. The villagers celebrated the birth, unaware of the deep, ancient secret Omalicha carried. Life seemed peaceful for the first time in what felt like forever. As the months passed, Chuka and Omalicha marveled at their little family. Their daughter thrived, and Omalicha appeared to have finally freed herself from the shadow of the curse. She hadn't transformed once during her pregnancy or after the birth. Chuka believed their love had conquered the ancient powers that bound her to the forest, and for a while, Omalicha believed it too. But the peace was short-lived. A few months after the birth of their daughter, something began to change in Omalicha. At first, it was subtle. Her body would tremble slightly when the wind blew through the trees at night, or she would disappear for short periods of time, returning breathless and visibly shaken. Then, one evening, the transformation happened again, uncontrollably. Omalicha's body shifted into the massive black serpent before Chuka's eyes, her human form slipping away without warning. The transformations became more frequent. Each time, Omalicha lost control more easily, and it became harder to return to her human form. Chuka tried to calm her, to remind her of their love, but it wasn't enough. The ancient curse was reawakening with a vengeance, and it was clear that something had gone terribly wrong. Terrified for Omalicha and their daughter, Chuka sought out Mama Neka once more. He feared what this resurgence of the curse meant, and he needed answers. When they arrived at Mama Neka's small, dimly lit home, the old woman greeted them with a sorrowful expression, as though she had been expecting them. "The curse has not been broken," Mama Neka said softly, her eyes filled with regret. "In fact, it has grown stronger." Chuka's heart sank. "But she didn't transform during her pregnancy. We thought the curse was over." Mama Neka shook her head slowly. The pregnancy suppressed the curse, masking its power. It allowed Omalika to live as if she were free, but it was only temporary. The longer she went without transforming, the stronger the curse became, waiting to reclaim her. Now it's taking hold again, and this time, it's worse than before. Omalika trembled beside Chuka, clutching their daughter close to her chest. "What can I do?" she asked, her voice breaking. "How can I stop this?" Mama Neka's expression darkened. "There is only one way. You must return to the forest, Omalika. The ancient powers that bind you are demanding your return. If you don't go back, the transformations will become more violent, and soon you won't be able to stop them at all. You will be trapped in your serpent form, and there will be no way to return to the life you have now." Omalika's eyes filled with tears as the truth set in. "If I leave, what will happen to Chuka? To our daughter?" Mama Neka looked at the little girl, her expression softening. "If you stay here, the villagers will eventually discover your secret. Not everyone is as accepting as your husband, Omalika. The villagers fear what they don't understand. If they find out, they will treat your family, your daughter, like outcasts. They will fear her, and she will grow up rejected by the people you love. You must leave now, before the truth comes out." Chuka's heart shattered as the full weight of Mama Neka's words sank in. He looked at Omalika, his wife, the mother of his child, and saw the pain and fear in her eyes. She didn't want to leave, but staying meant putting their daughter's future at risk. Omalika clutched her baby tighter, her tears flowing freely. She turned to Chuka, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have to go," she said, her voice trembling. "For her, for both of you." Chuka felt his world crumble. He had known this day might come, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of it. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "There has to be another way. We can face this together." Omalika shook her head, her tears falling faster. "I can't stay, Chuka. If I stay, I'll lose control and I could hurt you, hurt her. I don't want to go, but I don't have a choice." The room fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down on them all. Chuka couldn't speak. His heart was breaking, and he couldn't imagine life without Omalika. Their daughter would grow up without her mother, and he would be left to raise her alone. But Omalika was right. If she stayed, the curse would consume her, and they would all be in danger. Omalika placed her hand on Chuka's cheek, her touch soft and filled with love. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to come back," she whispered. "The last serpent spirit who tried to live among humans. Her story didn't end well, but I have to try. I have to go before it's too late." Chuka's throat tightened, his emotions overwhelming him. "I can't let you go," he said, his voice breaking. Omalika kissed his forehead gently, her tears mingling with his. "You have to. For her. I love you, Chuka, more than anything in this world. But I can't stay. I can't let the curse destroy everything we've built." With one final heart-wrenching embrace, Omalika placed their daughter into Chuka's arms. The baby cooed softly, unaware of the tragedy unfolding around her. Chuka held her tightly, his heart breaking with every second that passed. "I will love you always," Omalika whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Both of you." With tears streaming down her face, Omalika turned and walked toward the edge of the forest. Chuka watched her go, his heart shattered, knowing that this might be the last time he would ever see her. He wanted to run after her, to beg her to stay, but he knew that she was right. The curse would only grow stronger, and their love, though powerful, was not enough to stop it. As Omalika disappeared into the trees, Chuka held his daughter close, his tears falling silently. The woman he loved was gone, and now he would have to raise their child alone. The forest had taken her back, and though he didn't know if she would ever return, he would carry her memory with him forever. Years passed, and Chuka continued to live in Ikemba, raising his daughter alone. His heart still ached with the memory of Omalika, the woman he had loved and lost to the ancient curse that bound her to the forest. Though the villagers whispered about Omalika's strange disappearance, no one ever dared to ask Chuka about it directly. He remained respected in the village, admired for his quiet strength and dedication to his daughter. Chuka never remarried. His love for Omalika had been too deep, too powerful, and though she was gone, he kept her memory alive in every aspect of his life. He poured his heart into raising their daughter, who had grown into a bright and beautiful young girl. She was the spitting image of her mother, with the same sparkling eyes and graceful way of moving, and each day she reminded him of the love he had shared with Omalika. Despite the whispers and rumors that occasionally circled the village, Chuka found peace in the simple life he led with his daughter. The years had passed quietly, and though he missed Omalika deeply, he had found a way to live with the ache of her absence. His daughter was his joy, his reason for carrying on, and she had blossomed into a teenager, full of life and beauty, loved by all in the village. Then one day something extraordinary happened. It was late afternoon, and Chuka had just returned from the farm, his clothes dusty from a hard day's work. As he walked into the compound, he heard a sudden rush of excited footsteps. His daughter, who had been sitting outside tending to the chickens, sprang up and ran towards someone who had just entered the yard. Chuka froze as he saw the figure standing at the entrance to their peaceful home. It was a woman, a stunning beauty who looked like she had stepped out of a dream. Her skin glowed with warmth, her hair flowed gracefully down her back, and her eyes sparkled with a depth that Chuka could never forget. His heart stopped as he realized who it was. Omalika. For a moment, Chuka could hardly believe what he was seeing. He stood rooted to the spot, his mind racing, unable to move or speak. It was her, the woman he had loved more than life itself, the woman he had lost to the curse, the same woman he thought he might never see again. And yet, here she was, standing before him, her smile filled with love and triumph. Their daughter, unaware of the emotional storm sweeping over Chuka, rushed forward and greeted the woman with a joyful embrace, sensing a familiar connection that went beyond words. Omalika knelt down, hugging her daughter tightly, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. She had missed so much, but the bond between mother and child was undeniable, strong even after all the years apart. Chuka, his heart pounding, took a tentative step forward. His voice broke as he spoke, barely able to form the words, "Omalika." She stood and met his gaze, her eyes filled with a deep, enduring love. "Chuka," she whispered, stepping toward him. "I've returned. I overcame the curse and the forces that tried to keep us apart. I'm back." Tears filled Chuka's eyes as the weight of the years fell away in an instant. Omalika, the woman he had loved so deeply, the mother of his child, had returned. She had fought the curse, fought the ancient forces of the forest, and against all odds, she had found her way back to him and their daughter. Chuka took Omalika into his arms, holding her as though he would never let go. The years of separation, the heartache, the loneliness, it all melted away as they stood together, finally reunited. Their love, tested by the ancient powers of the forest, had endured. And now, after so many years apart, they could finally be a family again.